Old Enough to Save the Planet, written by Lowell Kirby, illustrated by Adelina Lirius. These are all of the children that we will meet in this story. We have Felix from Germany, Himanjai from India, Amy and Ella from the UK, Adeline from Indonesia, Unita from Kenya, Vincent from France, Brooklyn from Georgia, Hunter from South Africa, Nikita from Ukraine, Shalise from Australia, Jordan from New York, and the children of Hinged School in China. And all of these guys are going to talk to us about how that we're big enough to save our earth. I'm big enough to save our trees. Felix from Germany was concerned about the vast number of trees cut down all over the world. When he was 9 years old, he launched Plant for the Planet to get school children all around the world to join together and plant new trees in their own countries. His idea was so successful that a few years later, more than 1 million trees had been planted in nearly 100 countries. A huge number of trees are cut down around the world every day. Trees are cut down to make room for farmland or housing, or they harvest the wood. Trees of all shapes and size and form are a vital part of the habitats of many of the world's creatures. Humans take in oxygen from the air and get rid of carbon dioxide, but trees do the opposite. Without them, we wouldn't be able to breathe. Felix adds the last bit of soil around a tree that he's just planted. I'm resourceful enough to reduce traffic pollution. If everybody used a car, traffic jams build up quickly in areas with lots of homes and workplaces. People can get hurt trying to move safely among the vehicles, and accidents can happen. Walking and cycling are great ways to reduce both air pollution and the amount of traffic on the road. The traffic outside Himanjai School in India became such a problem that the 9-year-old took action and started a campaign to encourage people to cycle instead of drive. She also organized better places for cars and rickshaws to wait so that children could leave school safely. Other local schools were so impressed with her ideas that they started using them as well. The exhaust fumes given off by cars and vans and trucks create air pollution, which can cause health problems. Himanjai waves goodbye to her friends as she walks home from school. In some towns and cities, air pollution gets so bad that scientists say it isn't safe for people to go outside. We're smart enough to stop buying single-use plastic. Bigger plastic items like bottles end up in landfill sites. After learning about the negative effects of plastic waste, British sisters Amy, 16, and Ella, 14, set up a charity to share their knowledge and get people involved in their work. They inform others about how we can replace single-use bottles with reusable alternatives. They've created a website with lots of useful resources, as well as an app to track plastic litter, and they've persuaded many schools, businesses, and city councils to make positive changes in how they use plastic. Lots of plastic items can be easily swapped for more environmentally friendly alternatives, like using beeswax wrap instead of plastic wrap to keep food fresh. Amy and Ella explain how a reusable bottle is so much better than a plastic one. Many everyday items are made from plastic, but they can be difficult to recycle. Much smaller plastic items such as microbeads found in things like shampoo can end up in the ocean and be swallowed by fish, making them sick. Some plastic items might not even need replacement. More and more supermarkets are selling loose products with no packaging, and customers fill up their own jars and bags to take them home. I'm powerful enough to preserve the environment. Flooding was wreaking havoc in Indonesia, where Adeline lives as a result of humans destroying the natural environment. At the age of 12, she formed a community group called Friends of Nature to address the cause of these disasters. She organized people to replant the native mangrove trees that had been cut down and to create a protected area in the sea to allow new coral reefs to form. She also spent time educating others about the impact that human activity has on the world around us. Cutting down trees means that rainwater can flow freely over the land and become a flood. Changing the natural environment can have serious consequences for plants, animals, and humans. Dumping toxic waste in the ocean can cause coral reefs to die away. Biodiversity is a word to describe having a wide variety of plants and animals in any given habitat, which is very important for keeping the environment healthy. Overfishing can destroy the biodiversity of our oceans. I'm compassionate enough to protect animals. Rhinos are a critically endangered species, which means they are extremely high risk for extinction. Hunter spends time with the rhinos he has helped to rescue. When a species becomes extinct, it means that there are no more of them left alive in the wild. When he found out about an abandoned baby rhino, Hunter donated his pocket money to help the people look after it, even though he was only 7 at the time. He persuaded lots of other people in his home country, South Africa, to give money toward caring for rhinos as well. He now talks to people all over the world about how important it is to look after all wildlife and prevent endangered species from becoming extinct. Rhinos are being hunted because people want to take their horns. Some of these people believe that rhino horns are used for making medicines, while others think they are a sign of wealth and success. Some people are so eager to get rhino horns that they kill the rhinos illegally, which is called poaching. I'm creative enough to stamp out litter. Brooklyn from Georgia was 7 years old when she wrote a book called The Adventures of Earthsaver Girl to teach people about why litter is a problem. She visits school to talk about her book and entertains children with songs and plays to show that saving the environment can also be fun. Litter is a problem that most of us encounter every day. We might see food wrappers dropped in the streets or spot old bottles floating in the river. Litter spoils how environment looks, but it can also damage the plants and animals that live around us if it doesn't biodegrade. When something biodegrades, it decays naturally over time and is absorbed by the environment without causing it any harm. Synthetic materials like plastic, some rubber, and nylon can take many hundreds of years to disappear completely, so litter containing items made of these is a much bigger problem. Natural materials like food waste will biodegrade completely within a few months. Brooklyn is dressed up as Earthsaver Girl, encouraging her friends to join her. I'm inspired enough to eat locally grown food. Many large farms spray chemicals on their plants to help them grow, as well as to kill weeds and insects. Growing food close to where it will be eaten means that it doesn't have to be transported a long way in refrigerated trucks or airplanes. These vehicles use fuels that harm our environment. Organic farms don't use chemicals on their plants and rely on natural methods to keep their crops healthy. Vincent, an 11-year-old from France, recognized the environmental impact of large-scale farming and secured funding to set up an organic community garden in his village. He believed this would encourage his friends and neighbors to consider food production more carefully and to take some responsibility for how their food was grown. His project has been very successful and now has expanded to include a beehive and a greenhouse. It has also brought people in his community closer together. Eating fresh food that has been recently picked avoids the need for lots of packaging and storage and reduces food waste. If you've grown your own food, you know that it will taste good in any shape or size. I know enough to save the bees. 9-year-old Unita learned about the importance of pollination while visiting an ancient forest in Kenya where she lives. Her trip inspired her to create a garden near her home that would attract bees and other creatures that help to spread pollen. She's put up signs in her town to explain her work to her community, and she sells seeds to help other people start their own gardens. When a bee drinks nectar, the pollen from the flower sticks to the bee's legs. The bee then carries the pollen to the next flower. Bees like to live in areas filled with wildflowers, grasses, and trees. Without the pollen, the new plants can't grow, including those that provide food for us to eat. Bees' habitats are being destroyed so humans can use the land for other things, leaving the bees homeless. Unita prepares to plant some wildflowers that will attract bees. I'm responsible enough to make use of our food waste. Nikita, a 12-year-old from Ukraine, decided to make use of the food waste that was being thrown away at his school. Along with a friend, he set up a project to separate food leftovers from other types of trash and then turn them into compost that could be used to nourish the city's plants and trees. Their work was so successful that many other schools around the country have adopted the idea and are using their waste to create their own compost. One way to reduce food waste is to take suitable leftovers, such as bread crust or apple cores, and find a way to turn them into compost. All around the world, a huge amount of food waste is taken to landfill sites every day. Compost is made by allowing organic materials such as leaves, twigs, and food waste to slowly decompose. Nikita empties a bucket of peelings into the school compost pile. Compost can be made on a large scale in schools or in restaurants, or on a smaller scale like at home. This compost eventually becomes a nutrient-rich fertilizer which can be used to help new plants and trees grow. I care enough to clean up the ocean. Shalise was 11 years old when she started working to clean up the ocean near where she lives in Australia. She goes down to the beach every weekend to tidy up and make notes on the garbage she finds. She also got her local council to provide special bins for old fishing lines and to put up signs explaining how we can better take care of marine animals and their habitats. Fishing line is one of those plastics that can last for hundreds of years. Fishing lines are very dangerous for marine animals. They get tangled up in them and become seriously injured. It's not just beaches that need cleaning up. Trash from people living inland can find its way to sea after it ends up in a river that flows into the ocean. Trash is destroying the world's coral reefs, making them more vulnerable to diseases that damage their health. It takes hundreds of years for fishing line and other trash to break down and disappear, so it causes a lot of damage if it isn't cleaned up. Shalise explains to her friends why it's important to collect trash from the beach. There are now many garbage patches in our ocean, and the largest of these, the Great Pacific Patch, is about the size of Texas, but it is hard to get an accurate measurement. I'm clever enough to look for palm oil alternatives. Jordan, an 11-year-old from New York, became concerned about the use of palm oil while doing research for a school project on orangutans. He discovered that rainforests or home to orangutans were being burned down to make space to grow more oil palms. He contacted lots of companies that used palm oil in their products to ask them to say so clearly on their labels so that more people will be aware of the issue. He also set up a website to share his work and to encourage others to help. Jordan hands a banana to a orangutan who happily plays in a rainforest home. Rainforests are home to a huge number of plant and animal species, so many in fact that we haven't even discovered most of them. A large number of everyday food and beauty products contain palm oil, from soap and shampoo to chocolate and bread. Burning down the rainforest to grow more palm oil trees means that lots of species, including orangutans, could die out forever. The smoke that results from burning down the rainforest contains carbon dioxide and other pollutants, which can cause serious pollution problems. Palm oil isn't bad in itself, but we need to be much more careful about how and where it is produced, as well as how companies use it. We're dedicated enough to save water. Humans cannot survive without water, so there's more demand for it as the world population grows. Freshwater shortage often affects 1 in 3 people around the world, mainly in developing countries. At Hingda, the children are learning how a spray nozzle on the end of a tap can slow waterfall and reduce waste. The children at Hingda Primary School in China wanted to find ways to make their school more environmentally friendly. They worked together to create an ecological field on their school grounds that educated students about water conservation through games and activities. Their most important achievement was finding a way to adapt their drainage system so that wastewater could be used to irrigate the small farm areas outside each classroom. All their ideas have been useful, and they are still working to find more. Climate change is leading to rising global temperatures that may lead to more droughts, making it even more important to conserve water as much as possible. Whether in school or at home, you can reduce water waste, scraping leftovers and removing grease from before you wash your plates. So, how can you help to save the planet? You can buy products with little or no packaging. You can stop food waste. You can mend things instead of throwing them away. Walk or use public transportation when it's possible. Think carefully before traveling by airplane. Turn off the tap when you're brushing your teeth. Aim to eat more seasonally, locally grown produce to reduce food miles. Eat less meat. Save energy at home whenever possible. Buy less stuff. And 10 things to do to make your voice heard. You can write your representatives, your local city officials, educate others, create petitions, set up a group of people working towards a similar goal, write to newspapers, stay up to date with the news, gather friends and family and join a protest, go on strike, speak out at every opportunity. Some of these might be a little radical, but there's still things that you can do. You're old enough to do your part to save your planet. Even if that's just recycling, reducing, reusing at home, not littering, helping to clean up litter, all of those things you can do even as a kid. So you're old enough to help do your part. And that's what we try to educate people through Keep Our County Beautiful, is that every person needs to do their part to keep our county looking beautiful. So you have a part. You can do that. You can help reduce waste. You can reuse things. You can recycle. You can not litter. You can tell others not to litter. You can help pick up litter. So there's lots of things that you can do to help save the planet. So we would love to see the things that you end up doing to help save the planet.